the skill that they have. And so the word that follows us throughout this debate is the word protection. And before protection, identification. How do you identify a skill? Or how do you say this is a skill, and how do you transfigure that skill into an asset of value? And this is the difficult task of this law called the Copyright Act. But we proceed nevertheless. I want today to focus on the assets that are worthy of protection. I will look at the artistic, I will look at the musical, and I will pause for the dramatic as well. Now, as you know, Your Honor, I like to quote the speaker who precedes me, and I like to examine the salient features of what that speaker would have said. And one of the things that the Honourable Member for St. James Central said that caught my attention particularly when he said copyright is a vehicle, copyright is a vehicle for the creation of intergenerational wealth. And it is commendable that the government seeks to attract the attention of young people to harness talents that otherwise may have gone financially unrewarded. And it is commendable that the government takes the lead in helping young people to identify a talent and to use the word of the Honourable Member to monetize that talent. And so one congratulates the government in its effort so to do, to focus on the material gain that may be had from a skill, from a talent. While we look at material gains, I would want the government not to focus its attention away from the moral loss. Yes, there is material gain to be made, but sometimes and oftentimes we pursue material gain at the expense of moral standards. And you did hear the Honourable Member in his address speak of standards, the fall of standards. So that I did promise you, Your Honour, in a very short address that I will not reinvent the wheel and repeat what the Honourable Member said about material gain. But I think the time has come to focus this country's attention on the moral loss that we have been suffering at the hands of something, some activity that passes for artistic expression. Indeed, I quote the Honourable Member on another occasion as reminding the young people of Barbados that, and I quote, "It is a tool for your empowerment." And I take it that the Honourable Member again was focusing on the material. And yes, material acquisition becomes a source of empowerment. It is certainly a source of upward mobility, and it is irrational not to encourage young people of talent to pursue upward social and financial mobility. So it is quite rational. But let us agree to strike a balance, and let us agree to tell young people in this country that they must not pursue the arts and entertainment at the expense of the welfare of their audience, the young people. We had some very young people in here this morning. Some of us paused to have a short word with them, because I think we all love young people and we all care for them, and we want to see them do well in a society. This society was well prepared for us, and I think, Your Honor, we are at the stage when we must prepare this society for the youth that are coming after us. And so while we encourage them to pursue financial and economic wealth, while we encourage them to pursue material empowerment. Let us pause and ask them to display or exercise a sense of responsibility towards their audience, and sometimes they don't quite understand the stretch of their audience. They don't quite understand the number of people who are listening to them. They don't quite understand the influence that they have on the minds of young people. And permit me to say this, Your Honor, today has been a day of bright news, good news, that there is a lot of talent in this country that can be harnessed, that will be harnessed if we're attempting to pursue empowerment and enfranchisement for young people, indeed within the context of making this region integrated. That was a healthy discussion that we pursued last week. And if we are looking for markets for young, talented young people here reside 7 to 8 million people, a market for young people and beyond to display their talents. And that's the good news. That's the very good news. But somewhere I read that there are in excess of 50 16-year-olds in prison. And if it is more than 50, I'm being told that there are 80 16-year-olds in our prison. That is a high percentage of teenagers incarcerated in a country this size. I want to pause there. Why are we living in a country in which there are 80 16-year-olds in a prison? Where are they coming from? What are their influences? Last weekend I received notice that there's a station called Radio Bimshire, which is run by the National Library Service. And I was so excited. I was so very excited that I tuned into this Radio Bimshire online, not on a radio, online. And I became so excited when I was hearing that for the entire day they were going to be playing the stories, short stories, written by Timothy Callender, a genius of Barbadian literature, by the way. And what a happy coincidence between his life and the life of the person who would have been reading those stories, Mr. Alfred Pragner. There was some celebration in here earlier today about a place in Waterford, and both of them went to Waterford.
A place in Waterford, sir? A place in Waterford?
A place.
You sure about that?
A place.
Not a university in Waterford. A place?
A place.
You can do, I remember you can do better than that.
I know you will encourage more than restrain language. Those good and noble men and women who traverse this country saying, up and on. And they say it with meaning, they say it with pride, and they say it with justification. A place called Combermere. And Messrs. Callender and Pragnell went to Combermere, and their lives coincided. And that has been a happy coincidence for Barbadian literature and drama. And they came under the tutelage of Mr. Frank Collymore, three icons, three heroes of Barbadian literature. And you wonder why I speak of achievement, and then deviance, and then literature. I do because I believe there's a relationship between those three social phenomena. I suspect that everybody in this parliament came up in an era before this present era. This is an era of dysfunction and violence. Whatever is the good news about Barbados, this certainly is a Barbados that we have not known before. And I describe it as an era of dysfunction, social dysfunction, and violence. And maybe they're not connected, maybe they are. But I can only give you evidence, I can only give you testimony, sir, of the Barbados in which I was raised. A Barbados that was not only literate, but a Barbados that was literary. And I say to you, sir, there's no point in being literate when you're not literary. There's no point in having the ability to read when you're not reading. And you and I know, sir, you're a Waterford man. They sent me elsewhere.
Compton Street. Compton Street.
But we both grew up in a Barbados, sir, where we were reading. But this is the computer age, and a child will spend all of his waking hours with a phone, which is really a mini computer, and he is staring at images more than he is reading. And that is the point. Now, teachers, or some teachers, will probably tell you that they are internalizing no less. I don't know if I agree with that, but the computer appeals to a different sensation. As I said, they're staring at images. Reading is a different mental and intellectual activity. It involves contact with ideas. Maybe the computer introduces one to ideas. Maybe it does. Reading involves the process of learning. Reading involves personal discipline. Reading involves patience, which is something this entire society, including us as adults, seem to be lacking. And reading involves personal development, that contact with ideas, that patient contact with ideas, that process of learning. Can we say, Your Honor, that today's methodologies involve the same mental and intellectual discipline? I don't come to this discussion as any expert, but one must pause and wonder how we are doing in this computer age. And one must wonder how this shift, this paradigm shift in learning, really relates itself to a society that is now violent, a society that maybe is still literate, but certainly a society that is not literary. And this is not to be arrogant, but has our society, that society, let us say 25, 30, 40, 45 years ago, has that society not produced an individual that is qualitatively different from today's individual? Maybe, and that is not to express a complex of superiority. It certainly expresses a difference. And one does not blame young people for the state of this society, because we, our parliament, the adults, certainly this government, has a responsibility in relation to that social dysfunction, certainly in relation to that violence that now pervades our society. And I spoke about reading. I want to say to you, sir, it becomes something of a national tragedy that that stone building on Corey Street, White Park Road, is still unoccupied. A beautiful building holding a treasure chest of good memories for everyone in this parliament. There's none in this parliament who is so young that he or she would not have had the pleasures of that experience in that old library on Courage Street, White Park Road. And Your Honor, I want to, in my thesis, say that there must be a correlation between this new society and those who entertain them, or the content of that entertainment. And I spoke of reading. Let me stay with reading for a short while. When we were growing up, as I said, it was one of the happiest coincidences, cultural coincidences, is between the life of Pragnell and Callender. And Mr. Callender has a book called It So Happened. And that book contains a number of Barbadian short stories, not Barbadian short stories written for the sake of vanity, but written for the sake of painting a portrait of this society prior to what we would now want to call modern Barbados. And modern Barbados, if you wish, would be over the last 45 years. I say from 1980 to present. And prior to 1980, certainly in the 70s, 60s, 50s, and maybe the 40s, because Callender was writing, it was autobiographical. Indeed, in some of the stories, Callender is the protagonist. I done going to parties, for example. His wife was Vera, and he is the protagonist. He writes it in the first person, so Callender never distanced himself from the characters in his stories. This is not to criticize, but another literary figure, Jeanette Lane Clark, she was never involved in her stories. Hers was a portrait of something at distance. Callender's was not a portrait of something at distance. Callender was involved in the drama. And those stories are certainly useful. I don't know what is being taught in the schools. Again, I'm no expert, I'm no authority. But I want to suggest that this society's development, or in this society's development, there needs to be a pause and to reintroduce our children to the arts, to the books like It So Happened. And the Honourable Member for St. James Central made a reference to In the Castle of My Skin, which is a more difficult read for young people. But that again, autobiographical. Mr. Lamin is at the center of the narrative. He is there in a society that is largely impoverished. But what it does, it paints a portrait. And our children today are lacking sight of that portrait that is not so distant from present reality, because everybody has a foundation. It's not only buildings that have foundations, but if buildings are to be an example, buildings remain sturdy because of a foundation. And a child cannot claim to be sturdy while he lacks a foundation, while he lacks an introduction to his parents, while he lacks an introduction to his grandparents. And that is called identity, knowing thyself. And unless one knows himself, he is doomed to a life of loss, of strain all over the place, and not knowing where he is going, because simply he does not know where he has come from. But one wants to make the point that the arts assist and will assist young people in finding that anchor, not only materially, but morally and socially, so that they can mark their progress and know the distance they have to travel forward, having regard to the distance that they have come from. And that is through the experience of their parents, that is through the experience of their grandparents. And so if these lessons are not taught by parents or grandparents to grandchildren and children, here's the literature of the country, giving children that anchor, telling children what Callender was saying to them, what Lamin was saying to them, what the dramatists and teachers of the...
Sir, I raise on a point of order. Sir, the standing rules of the House strictly define debates to topics relevant to the matter being debated. Sir, for the last 17 and a half minutes, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition has not even accidentally collided with the Copyright Bill 2025. And I only do this, sir, because, I'm aware that we're all here, there are other people here, people are watching, and we would like to hear if the opposition leader has anything to say on the bill, and what he does have to say, as opposed to this rambling, he called it a treatise, this rambling treatise, sir, on the arts and arbitrary stories that are read to children.
Oh, I'm so obliged to you. Now, Section 7 of the legislation, and I'm not going to be distracted. Section 7 of the legislation, and we are talking about protecting artistic property, the intangible. That's what we're talking about. That is what the legislation is about. And Section 7 says, copyright is a property right which, subject to the provisions of this section, may subsist in the following categories of work. A, original literary, dramatic, musical, or artistic works. B, I was hoping not to have to do this for the uninitiated. B, sound recordings, films, broadcasts, or cable programs. C, typographical arrangements of published editions. And D, original databases. And copyright may subsist in a work irrespective of its quality or the purpose for which it was created. Now, the Honourable Member for St. James Central, in a far more intellectual intervention than his colleague, would have spoken of monetizing these assets. And we have joined the Honourable Member for St. James Central in applauding the virtues of monetization of talent. And I do recall that the Honourable Member for St. James Central did say to the House that there is value in purpose beyond monetization, except that the Honourable Member did not expand on it. The Honourable Member was more expansive on the material gain that is to be had from talents in creating literature or music. The Honourable Member for St. James, his focus was on the material gain to be made. We joined and congratulated the Honourable Member for highlighting, for amplifying these virtues related to that talent. And we did what the Honourable Member proceeded to do, but did not do expansively, to speak not only in relation to the material, but to speak in relation to the moral. And here is an intervention which seeks to sway a discussion away from the moral. And that is not, that is not accidental, to be honest with you. And I want to insist, Your Honor, that the moral is as important as the material. But if honourable members, or if an honourable member here believes that there is no case to be made for morality as it pertains to the arts, then so be it. But perhaps it reinforces the point that I am making, that the moral is seen as irrelevant. And I drew a correlation between the incidence of 16-year-olds in prison in a society that focuses less on the moral
Sir,
and more on the material. Nothing to argue about, son.
Sir, I raise on a point of order,
Nothing
sir.
to argue about, son.
The honourable leader of the opposition is misleading this honourable chamber. This is the second time, sir, that he has said that there are 80 16-year-olds in the prison. Sir, there are 5 persons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 persons at the age of 16 currently at Dodds Prison in Barbados. I made a check just now, sir, because I was alarmed at the statistic. And we cannot have those figures being bandied about, coming from in here, misleading the whole of Barbados, dominating headlines tomorrow, which are patently and almost maliciously false. I won't say maliciously because I'm going to give him a chance to take it back. But to correct the record, sir, there are not 80 16-year-olds in Dodds Prison, as was stated as a fact by the leader of opposition. There are, in fact, 5, sir, for a much lesser number.
Point of order is noted.
No, we will hear him. No, we will hear him. And perhaps the person who supplied the information may have intended to say 80 teenagers. So, on behalf of the person who supplied the information, we apologize to a very alert member, honourable member for Christchurch East. And if he wishes now...
Honourable member, continue. Please continue on the bill.
Yes. No, we are going to settle this.
Please continue on the bill.
On the bill.
On the bill, honourable member.
Yes, and all we are saying to you, Your Honour, is that the person who supplied the information is willing to be corrected that it is 80 teenagers and not 18 60-year-olds. Now, if he doesn't...
Honourable member, please continue on the bill.
Yes. So we thank him. We thank him for numbers, knowing that he is far better with numbers than he is with ideas.
Honourable member, are you speaking to the bill, sir? Honourable member, please.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. You see, he sought to persuade...
Honourable member, return to the copyright bill 2025.
Yes. Let us return there. And we were looking at what the honourable member for St. James Central, said in relation to the role of music as a vehicle by which one could empower oneself and could create intergenerational wealth. And we come back there. And we come back to literature. And I want to say to the honourable member for St. James Central, who probably understands this discussion, not probably, I think he understands it. So maybe I should direct myself to he who understands what is being said in here, what was said earlier this morning and what is being said now, and to the people on the periphery, just like the idle wind, Shakespeare. Shakespeare spoke of... You want to hear about Shakespeare?
Honourable member for Christchurch South, please.
That can't go into Hansard. That can't reach Hansard.
Honourable member, please do not be distracted by persons on the other side. Please speak to the bill. You're doing quite well, honourable member.
We are going along very well.
Right.
Or as we say, Barbados, we are going along very good.
Yeah, continue then.
And the idle wind, which we respect not.
Honourable member, you are allowing persons from Compton Street distract you from Compton Street. Please. Those specifically 3 are from Compton Street. Please, continue. That's all I'm saying. They're not from Waterford. They're from Compton Street. Continue. Do not be distracted by people of a fellow secondary school. Please.
Well, if he gets up, we have to hear him.
Continue.
Whether it has substance or not, the rules require that you must hear him. But we were making the point to the Honourable Member for St. James Central, who made an excellent point in terms of monetization and empowerment and intergenerational wealth. We have to repeat it so that we will all understand what is being said. That not only is it about material empowerment, but it is about personal and moral and social development. And that is what music and the arts is about. Apart from making money, it makes for a better society. And I thought that everybody understood that. And you certainly do. And the Honourable Member for St. James Central, who made reference to it, he certainly understands it. But as I said, there is, I wouldn't say that. All I would say, there is in life the idle wind, which you respect not. Idle wind, Shakespeare, and I'm still on literature. And so I am challenging this government today, since he put me in this mood. I am now going to challenge this government today to restore, not literature now, because the literature is pretty much settled. And if it is not settled, we as a parliament must have enough courage to sway young writers, whether they're writing books or calypsos, to write in a manner that uplifts little children in this country. Must we be afraid to say that? Must we seek popularity and forsake principle? I know we are politicians and we all want to be loved and to gain success at the polls. But do we have a moral responsibility to pause in our quest for success at the polls and say to our musicians or literary people, whether they're writing books or calypsos, and say to them, look, do exercise some sense of responsibility that what you write really should uplift and not degrade. I have said it in here before, and I say it again, abiding by principle and not in any quest for popularity, because the future of this society remains at stake. When we as a parliament cannot say to young people, well, you know, sometimes what you write is not doing this society much good. And I referred to those 80 teenagers in prison because they have emerged from a society that is now characterized by levels or domains of decadence which may have influenced their path towards that prison. That if a child gets on a public service vehicle at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and hears lyrics from a calypso, and this is whether the van turns over or not, because some of the vans turning over physically, but morally, they're turning over every day. Morally, they're gone, can't take it. Can't take it. We gone.
Honourable Member, continue, please.
Yes, let him go. So that we're talking about copyright, the right to create, the right to monetize that creative effort, the right to have that creative effort protected by the copyright laws. And while the copyright laws may protect it, who is protecting the audience? Who is protecting the young child on the public service vehicle who is led to believe that social interaction is about violence and sex. That is the point. That is the point. That while the copyright laws are protecting them and while they are monetizing their creative effort, there is a moral deficit that is suffered by young people in this country. Are we afraid to say that in here? I'm not afraid to say it. I have to live in this society. And I don't personalize my parliamentary discourse, but the overwhelming majority of us here are parents. You mean we are going to seek political popularity and abandon our responsibility as parents, as teachers, all for the sake of material gain when there's a vast moral loss that is suffered by this society, when a little 6-year-old is getting on a public service vehicle and all that he can hear is sex and violence, and sometimes there's no distinction between the two because sometimes the sex sounds like violence and the violence sounds like sex. And that is not a worthy topic, that is not a relevant topic in the context of copyright. They can leave again. That is what is happening in Barbados. And anybody who doesn't want to hear the discussion, they're forfeiting their right to a public audience. I say so. They are forfeiting their right to a public audience if they believe that the degradation and the descent, the moral descent that has been made in this society at the hands of men who believe that they're creative, they forfeit the right to an audience. I say so. And telling me about relevance, this is no discussion to be sanitized behind legality nor technicality. There's a deep problem in this society, and that deep problem is affecting young children. And all of us in here are parents, whether natural or adoptive, we are parents, and we join the other parents of this society and enter into solidarity with them that this problem must come to an end. It must come to an end. This society must correct the degradation of relationships between children. When we were at school, we didn't go into an environment that is present in the schools now. Some of us were walking to school 3 miles. Some of us were on public service vehicles without music. You go to Washington, London, New York, Toronto, and you catch a bus or a train, you don't hear any filth in your ear. Why is it that you get on a PSV in Barbados and you have to hear music? Why? It is there to transport people, not to entertain people. And it is not entertainment, it is degradation. Who will have the courage in here to say that today? One voice. If any of the members of the government join in this discussion, I challenge them to say what is the government's position on it. And silence will be acquiescence in a social problem that is afflicting this country. When our young children on the way to school, Your Honor, on the way to school, afflicted by filth. And telling me about relevance? Get with it, my friend. So I was on literature when the interruption came. And the point was being made that literature grounds the children. And while I was speaking, in walked the Honourable Member for St. Michael East. The Honourable Member for Christchurch East wants to tell him that he has been wasting his time with the Israel Level Foundation for the last 20 years.
Honourable, there has no discussion in relation to this copyright bill before this Honourable Chamber. So we're freeing.
Yes, we're on the arts. We're on the arts.
We're freeing.
And there are people in here, I'm sorry to have identified the Honourable Member for St. Michael East, but a contribution was made to artistic development in this country. Maybe it was not monetized, I don't know. I don't know the business of the member for St. Michael East. Maybe it was monetized. Maybe the group performed in the hotels and so on and made money. I don't know. Maybe they have copyrighted the work that they have done. We're on this copyright bill, and we are looking at a certain dichotomization. Monetization versus morality. You can monetize, yes, but you have a moral obligation to protect the children. And we were saying that literature gives that grounding. It paints a portrait of a society past, and it was a society past that produced upstanding men and women of character. That there was nothing socially inferior about that past society. And if children can draw on the experience of the grandparents and parents, perhaps there's a chance that they will meet success. And you hear the word irrelevant? No wonder there's a ministry that supervises a department that has 80 teenagers in prison. And we were lamenting the absence of literature, Barbadian literature, from the curriculum. I am standing a few feet away from the Minister of Education, and I challenge him as well. I challenge the Minister of Education in his effort to transform, to actively pursue endeavors in which the curriculum in the schools of this country, from the very young up to the most senior secondary, will embrace Barbadian literature, wholesome Barbadian literature. That is the point. And that the sole pursuit is not that of material gain, the sole pursuit is that not of monetization, but it is about building character. It is about social development. That is the point they made. And everybody understood it, or so we thought. So let us come back to the music. We will leave literature, and we will congratulate the library service for having done that entire day of the readings of Calendar's work. But for those of us who listened to it, we regretted that they did not do the entire readings, and there's a reason why, sir. I think copyright issues arose. They played only, I think there were about 4 songs on the CD at the time, out of production. 4 readings by Pragnell of Calendar's work. And the reason they could not do the entire work relates to issues of copyright. Maybe the estate, Calendar's estate, now insists that his works must not be read unless he is compensated, which is what this legislation is about. It is protecting property, intangible property, copyright. But we say, or we recommend to the government, I think this government purchased some works from Trinidad recently. I am going to encourage this government to purchase the works of Calendar. All of them. There is a treasure chest of readings by Alfred Pragnell and Frank Collymore. We claim to love and revere these people. Do we really? And they are lying in a vault. And the radio stations cannot play them. Maybe they cannot, because Calendar's estate is due royalties further to this copyright. He has not left us for 50 years yet, or 70, I don't know. I don't think he has left us for the period of 70 years as yet. So I'm going to very gently propose to the government that Calendar's works and the works of Calendar read by Pragnell and Frank Collymore should be purchased by this government so that it is made available to the school children of this country. They can listen on afternoons, they can listen in the morning. I am saying this while I'm about 10 feet away from the Honourable Member for St. James North, the Minister of Education, and he hears me, he looks at me, And if he looks at me again, he will nod in agreement. There he goes. And so, the suggestion, while the honourable member for Christchurch East Central looks in my direction as well, make some monies available to this government from the Ministry of Finance to purchase the works of Callender and Pragnell beyond the single CD that was made available to that radio station. It's called Radio Bimshire, and it is owned and operated by the National Library Service as a public service to the people of Barbados, making available the copyright works of two geniuses. Two geniuses. Timothy Callender was a genius. Alfred Pragnell was a genius. And they were taught by another genius, Frank Cullimore, and that had nothing to do with where they went every morning, Monday to Friday. You want me to say that, Your Honor?
I don't require you to say that. I know that.
Oh, dear.
You're saying it won't be an affirmation, sir, so you don't have to affirm it.
And you know, sir, while I say that, I looked at your tie.
You should. You should. Very symbolic.
And so music has fallen into the same abyss, as I was saying earlier. Within the context of the copyright laws, music has fallen into the same abyss. And I want this government to accept its responsibility to protect the children of this country, that when they are on a vehicle called a public service vehicle, and those public service vehicles fall under the control of who? The government. And the government must stop being cowardly. And if the government cannot have the courage, another government will have the courage to ensure that our children are cast into a safe environment, an environment that is not self-degrading, an environment that is not assaultive on their dignity, an environment in which a 7 or 8-year-old will be shielded from profanity while on the way to school, cluttering their minds with filth. I have the courage to say that. And it is not that I have all the courage in the world, but I recognize that I have a public responsibility. That as long as I come to this parliament and I have the privilege to speak and to represent, that I must speak the truth. And again, I'm challenging this government not only to speak the truth, but to act on that truth. And will the public service vehicles of this country be allowed to continue? I heard the honourable member for St. James North yesterday in a state, and I know he was in a state, and I'm not going to say a state of confusion, but he knew, the honourable member knew, that he was dealing with a situation that reflects troubled times. How do you relate to this? And I wasn't there, I cannot give evidence. But we're hearing what we're hearing. And while the matter is sub judice, it would be a breach of my responsibility as a parliamentarian and as a lawyer, an officer of the court, to make comment. So I'm not going to make comment. But I know that the honourable member for St. James North knows that he has a problem. And he is not the Minister of Transport, he's the Minister of Education. Those children were on their way to be educated. So it becomes a problem for his ministry. What are we going to do as a parliament? What is this government going to do as a government? Will this government bend like the ostrich and stick its head into the ground and allow public transport in this country to remain a perilous experience for young children who are put onto those buses by their parents? Are we seeking popularity, or do we pursue principle? I choose principle. I choose principle. Whatever may be the consequence, let us have the courage to choose principle. And all of this is happening in the name of music. All of this is happening in accordance with their rights to monetize what they call a talent. Yes, the talent may be there. The talent may be there. But there are consequences. There are consequences for the children. There are consequences for this entire society. And so, Your Honor, what would have been identified in the opening address would have been the fact that a lot of talents have gone by, whether on these fields of sport, cricket, football, and no one ever made money, except that we were making a good society. And may I suggest that we may do both? We may encourage the young people to do both. Make good money and make a good society. And that we will all lament the disappearance of Pride of Wilson Hill, Sing Out Barbados, the St. John Folk and Dramatic Group, Visa Singers, Shalom Singers, the Ellerslie Folk Chorale, Sicilian Singers, I think the Barclays Singers, which originated in Barclays Bank, they still exist. But we emerged from a time in which there was a certain order in this society, in which the copyright laws were not developed into statute laws, as we did with Cap 300, and as this government does today in repeal of Chapter 300 with a larger piece of legislation. But the disappearance of those groups, or the diminution of those groups, now see this country in a state of disequilibrium, social and moral disequilibrium. And the point is again to be made that in the pursuit of money, in the pursuit of intergenerational wealth, must we abandon our moral responsibilities. This government has a moral responsibility to the children of this country. Nobody denies any entertainer the right to pursue his calling. But there must be domains for that activity. And I want to say, beg your pardon, the public service vehicle is not the proper domain for the dissemination, for the expression of certain types of music. I must now challenge this government, if the government does not know by now, that they must consider removing music from public service vehicles. Will this government have the courage? Does this government have the conviction? If they claim the conviction. And if they claim the conviction, that is one thing, but will they have the courage to do it? Or will our young children continue to be exposed to what is passing for music and entertainment? It may be music and entertainment in other places, and nobody questions or challenges that. But we were given a good society when we were their age. That's the point I was making. We were given a good society. And to use the word of the Honourable Member for St. James Central, we were given standards. A 7-year-old on a bus is not responsible for the standard that he meets on that bus. And this debate is so timely. And if it makes anybody uncomfortable, I'm sorry. Perhaps I'm not that sorry, because we must confront these truths. Have the courage. Government, have the courage to do what must be done for the sake of this society's future. Not for the sake solely of monetization of a talent. Have the courage to do what is necessary to save this society. I did not reach dance. I did not reach dance. And if I did, maybe I will say things that will be even more upsetting. So I will leave that and merely say to you, Your Honor, that this society will also come to miss dance groups that populated this humble soil for many years. Some are still existing. And I am not here to sing anybody else's praises, but I began by paying tribute to Mrs. Goodrich. And the members of Dance in Africa performed yesterday at her funeral. And dance can be uplifting. Dance in other domains can be degrading. And that is as much as I will say on that. And to urge the government to do not what it opts to do, but to do what it is mandated to do. When one is in government, one has a mandate to do what is right by the citizens of this country. And it is right to use the words of the Honourable Member for St. James Central, that the government must do all in its power to return this society and to return the children of this society to a society that is one of standards, a society that is one of moral standards, a society that is willing to stand for what is right, and not a society in which wrong is not discouraged. I'm not saying wrong is encouraged, but a society in which wrong is not discouraged simply because those who have power do not want to risk loss of popularity. Well, I say to the government, have the courage to abide by principle. It is not a hostile message, you know. It is not a hostile message. It is just a message sent to all governments by the persons who are governed, the citizenry. And the citizenry, they always expect a government to do what a government must do. May I charge this government, therefore, with having failed over the past few years to do what it ought to do in relation to a sector that functions in spite of the copyright legislation. Indeed, they may be functioning under the protection of the copyright legislation, but are we not all failing to protect the children of this country in the name of entertainment? Your Honor, I am obliged to you.
Mr. Speaker, you want me to speak?
Honour-
Mr. Speaker,
Honourable Christchurch Space.
may I ask that the Honourable House be suspended for 5 minutes?
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended for 5 minutes. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended for 5 minutes. This sitting is resumed. Honourable for Christchurch East.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to lend my voice to this debate. Sir, copyright has a particular space in my heart and my interests, similar to the honourable member on my left, sir. I have long been in a business which deals with entertainment, entertainers, deals with artists, deals with productions and performers. So we know the importance, sir, of copyright and intellectual property as it relates to balancing all interest concerned. So an entertainer who brings out a song for crop over, many persons think solely in terms of what that song could do for me at crop over. They bring out the video, they try to get as much push and as much play in relation to the song as they can. And then when crop over is done, you hope that it gains some currency in other Caribbean nations for their own particular carnivals, and to pick up some change in relation to that as well. But for most entertainers in Barbados, that is the end of that. Once the year has passed and the song has run its course, we put that song as dead into the wastebasket, and we look for the next one to come out the following year. And there's a danger in that, sir, because you, the creative, would have put your heart and mind and soul into the production of that song. You created something that was really popular, and it has currency past the time for which you created it. That song is your intellectual property. It is property, sir, I guess intangible in a way that came from out of your mind. So intellectual property, property of your intellect. And the same way, sir, that if I have a car and I lease the car, everybody who drives the car has to pay me for it. If I lease any other thing, if I lease a house, everybody who stays in the house is supposed to pay me for it. The deal is you get the benefit of the use of the house or the use of the car, and I get my payment in money, fair compensation for what it is that you're using. It's the same thing, sir, in relation to music or intellectual property. I use one example to prove a point. Sir, there was a gentleman called Kevin Little, and he sang a song, You Turn Me On. Kevin Little, sir, had pretty much one major song. That song was a massive hit. And Kevin Little traded on that song for the rest of his career. And the song kept being played. It became popular in Japan, it became popular in Europe. It was catchy. And it kept being played. But Kevin Little copyrighted his song. So every time that song is played or performed by somebody else, he's entitled to royalties from that song, a small payment. The royalties might not be a lot, sir. If the song is played, you might get 68 cents or something on it. But if the song is being played in the States, and they have to log each time the song is played, and it is really popular and all the stations and all the DJs are playing it, then it starts to increase. So I am urging our creatives to not think to themselves in terms of one and done. To recognize that what you create, whether it's a painting, whether it's an image, whether it's a way of doing things, sir, to recognize that what you create has a value. It has a value past you. It has what I call a tradable value. Sir, if one was to go down the west coast of Barbados, one of the largest houses on the west coast of Barbados was the house owned by the man who I think is worth like 28 or $29 million. It was the house owned by the man who conceived the Tetra Pak. You may ask, what's a Tetra Pak? All of those juice boxes. The way of folding the cardboard to make it into a sealable container, that is the Tetra Pak design. So all of the Pine Hill dairy juices, all of the cartons of milk you see throughout the world, all of those things. Before that, sir, we have bottles. When the Tetra Pak came out, it came out as something that was disposable. It came out as something that could be opened easily, closed back relatively easily, and used and reused until the product inside was finished. So that man who invented the Tetra Pak patented his idea. He patented it, he registered the copyright on it, and he pushed and pushed and pushed. People didn't take it up immediately. He pushed and pushed and pushed until somebody went with it. And sir, that man and his family are wealthy beyond belief and need never to do another thing in life except sit down and collect the royalties from the Tetra Pak. Everywhere in the world uses the Tetra Pak design. Had he not copyrighted his idea, had he not got a patent for his work, then, sir, the next person to do it would have been the person who benefited from it. So it is important that when you have an idea, you have a product, you have something that is tangible, that you recognize upfront what you have and protect your interests. Because the proof of the ownership of the idea is who took the first step to securing it and registering it for themselves. So it doesn't make sense to have something, as the Honourable Minister who piloted the bill said, you know, people used to be worried that they go to the bank with the idea and want to borrow money for the idea, and then they realize that somebody else had the idea and went with it, that somebody else stole the idea from them. Even before you know if it can make money, it is necessary, if you think it's a good idea, copyright it. What I undertake, sir, as the Minister of Information to do is pull from this bill the salient points that are of relevance not to the super specialized, but relevance to the average person in Barbados who may have an idea, to the average creative, to the average musician, to let them know what copyright actually is, what it entails, how you can basically do it, and what are the benefits of it. So that is an undertaking that I'll make from here, sir, because I think it is important. Our creative industry in the last 2 to 3 years, we have invested very heavily in the creative industries in Barbados. One only needed to go to Carrie Festa, and we see the Jackie Opel Amphitheater, the Carrie Festa Village in Waterford, I call it the Arc, the building in Newton, Performing Arts Center in Newton. We've invested very heavily. The National Cultural Foundation over the last couple of years has been doing a marvelous job in incorporating artists and our artistic expressions into national events and getting exposure for our artists. The Honourable Member for St. Michael Southeast, sir, has, from the time I have known her, been traveling with and promoting artists, Bajan music, and our creative centers across the entire Caribbean and internationally. So this is not a fly-by-night passion of this government. And the Honourable Prime Minister herself, she keeps saying that had she been successful at her first love, which is music management, that she would have been a manager of some big band as opposed to being the Prime Minister of Barbados. So this is something that's deeply ingrained, sir, in the psyche of our party, sir, and of our government. Copyright at its fundamental is the recognition of the ownership of an idea or creation, right? So if you come up with something and you believe that nobody else has done it before, then copyright your idea. Own it. Be the first person on record to have claimed the ownership, and then the rights will come to you. How many times, sir, have we sat down and seen something on TV? A back scratcher. And you think to yourself, well, I would have thought of that. Or you see something else that's now being sold, and when Super Bowl comes on, something coming up there that you said to yourself, what? I thought about that. Thinking about it and doing nothing about it takes you nowhere. thinking about it, doing something about it, and not claiming the ownership of it up front still takes you nowhere. So, as I said, sir, we're going to talk over the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk the public of Barbados through what this actually means and why it is important to recognize the enduring benefits of your idea and how you can put yourself in a position, sir, to capitalize on that. Sir, if you look at the bill itself, this has one of the most extensive definition sections that I've perhaps ever seen. It defines, sir, everything: copy, computer program, what is a broadcast, right? What collective works means, what is an author, what is artistic work. It runs the full gamut so people can know exactly what is caught in here. And if you actually read the definition section, you realize that some of the definitions in there factor into this act in a way you never thought that they would. So it is a most comprehensive piece of legislation. It is important, sir, that we recognize what it is we're trying to do going forward as a country and put things in place to enhance the abilities of our creatives to own what it is that they create and also to make money from it. If you look, sir, as to why it is important that people get the recognition they deserve, if you watch a film now, watch a Marvel film, sir, and you look at the list of credits at the end, everybody who had any part to play in that film is recognized. Anyone, sir. You have the design team, you have the set designer, you have the designer of a specific costume, you have a whatever. Every song that is played is recognized and given its credit for it. This is a big thing. It has to be done by law in the United States so persons get the credit for what it is that they do, sir. I mean, to show you how far it goes, the last movie, The Alien. If you have a cause to watch that movie, sir, and you look through the credits, there's one that said Alien Blood Consultant. There was a credit, somebody got the credit for being the alien blood consultant. They said what the alien blood is supposed to look like on the screen. That's how specific some people get. But the point is, it is real. Sir, I want to say something because it was raised by the Honourable member from the other side. And the impression was conveyed, sir, that this government is oblivious to what is going on with the ZR culture, and that because the music, a van turned over, and he is horrified and he's calling the government to do things, and that we don't care. So every single member of this government, sir, sympathizes and empathizes with those who were injured yesterday. Every single one of us. We had a discussion this morning, sir, before coming into this house, and all who were involved in the discussion, sir, were in horror at what led to it. And the general feeling was enough is enough. We have tried gentle suasion. We have tried communication. We have tried meeting halfway. We have tried persuasion. We've tried everything. And the feeling of this government, and I believe it's going to be reflected soon, sir, is that the zero tolerance aspect now has to come. The Transport Authority was formed. They were given teeth to be able to bring heel to some of this. Legislation was passed to make the sector a bit more governable and less out of control than it was. But sir, I did not want to speak. I thought it was irrelevant to this debate. But it having been raised and the charge having been laid at the feet of this government, the public of Barbados needs to understand that this government does not condone what happens in the PSV sector. We are aware, we have taken steps, we've tried all legal means to bring it to heel. And like the rest of Barbados, we are outraged at what happened, sir, yesterday. And I am sure consequences will flow from that. So for the Honourable member to suggest what he did to me was reckless, and was trying to use as a political football, a most traumatic experience for children, parents, teachers, persons who saw, and the Honourable member for St. James North himself. I saw him down there, sir, and he was distressed. I spoke to him this morning, and his voice was breaking over it. He was so frustrated and upset. The record must reflect that this is a whole of Barbados issue, a whole of Barbados concern. And it is not the concern now invented by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. I just want to put that in perspective. The other thing, sir, that I cannot let pass. This chamber is seen as a chamber where truth is supposed to be spoken. Anything emanating from this chamber is supposed to be fact, which is why, sir, that there are provisions that persons are exempted from legal prosecution for things that they say in good faith in here. That is to allow the members and the members of Parliament to be able to fearlessly prosecute issues on behalf of their constituents and to raise and delve into and fully debate matters of national interest without fear of mashing the crease. Those protections, sir, exist to allow full, fair, frank, and honest debate to happen in here. When, sir, things are spoken in here as a fact that are so completely left of center, that numbers and figures are given as a fact that do not even almost correlate to what the actual number is. Sir, 80 is as far from 5 as heaven is from hell. So to recklessly throw out a number saying as a fact that there are 80 16-year-olds at Dodds Prison. I spoke to my friend, he said, just let it go, deal with it later. I said, you know what, hopefully nobody heard that. But then he did it again and again, at which point it had to be corrected, but I should not have to correct on the floor of Parliament something so easily verifiable as that, which is a flagrant and blatant untruth. And it cannot be passed off or laughed off as a joke. Perhaps they meant this. Perhaps the person who gave me this meant this. If somebody sends me a note in here, sir, in relation to debate I'm doing, and I am not certain as to how accurate it is, I'm not mentioning it. Sometimes you will see me pick it and go behind there because I'm going to verify before I speak. Nobody is going to call on Wilfred Abrams in here and say that he stood up and lied in Parliament. And I think we need to be careful. We have to protect our institutions. We had a set of children in here. Actually, I can't call them children. Young people. A set of young men and women in here observing the proceedings in Parliament, the sanctity of Parliament. They all came well dressed in their suits, and they think they look, sir, like the future leaders. The best example should be set for them. A lot of them are from the UE Student Council, budding possible politicians, sir. That's where it started for many of us in here, but not us, them. For many of the persons in here, sir, the best possible example should come from this Parliament, and we must take all steps, sir, to protect it. We, as the individual members, must not tread using the protections afforded to us under the standing orders or under the orders governing Parliament to be reckless with them. They're meant to ensure that the public gets the best of, as opposed to we shield ourselves from the worst of. So, sir, I will end as I started. Copyright is a little known area of the law because it really and truly affects a very small sector of our population. All of us know the criminal laws, all of us know about theft, all of us know about violence, all of us know about those things, sir. But the persons who require copyright legislation and intellectual property protections, sir, is a small microcosm of Barbados. Those are the creatives. And quite frankly, sir, a lot of the creatives are only interested in creating and don't extend their mind past the creation of the thing. That's where persons like the Honourable Member of St. Michael Southeast and the Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Member for St. Michael East come in trying to encourage them to create, but also encourage them to protect themselves and build something that can be used as an example of what creativity and the creative sector can actually accomplish. So I commend the legislation, sir, for being wide-ranging and being a step in the right direction. It is a great improvement on the last one. We've gone a little bit further with it, sir. And as I said, I undertake to work with the minister responsible and through JS and to put the information out there in a digestible form that people understand the importance of it and people can be galvanized to do what is right to protect themselves, to secure their rights, to make it tangible, and something you can pass on, sir, the benefits of which can live on with your family. I simply use the example. The man who knew how to fold cardboard to put milk into it is a billionaire, and nobody in his family ever need work again. He just sits down now and collects the money from everybody who uses his idea. Why can that not apply to a Barbadian? Sir, with those words, I thank you.
Honourable Member for St. James Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank the honourable members who contributed to this debate. I don't think, sir, that there's any issue that has been that has been raised outside of that which the honourable member who just preceded me adequately addressed, and that is the alleged dichotomy or difference between the two sides of this House on the question of public morality. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I think that it is abundantly clear. I don't know that there's anybody who could realistically want to suggest that there is not a sense of deep, deep concern on the part of this government. And I think the honourable member who just preceded me may have understated the case genuinely. This government will have to take the most drastic of measures in order to rein in the lawlessness that is taking place on the streets of Barbados. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, with those few words, I want to urge that this bill, this bill now be read a second time.
The question is that this bill be read a second time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg that you do not leave the chair and that the House resolve itself into committee for the further consideration of this bill.
The question is that the Speaker do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
This Honourable House is now in committee.
Clauses are in parts and may take in parts.
May proceed.
Yeah. Part 1, clauses 1 to 5.
Mr. Chairman, so I beg to move that Part 1, clauses 1 to 5 stand part.
Wait a second.
The question is that Part 1, clauses 1 to 5 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 2, clauses 6 through 18.
Mr. Chairman, so I beg to move that Part 2, clauses 6 to 18 stand part.
The question is that Part 2, clauses 6 to 18 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 3, clauses 19 to 26.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Part 3, clauses 19 to 26 stand part.
The question is that part 3, clauses 19 to 26 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 4, clauses 27 to 33.
I beg to move that Part 4, clauses 27 to 33 stand part.
The question is that part 4, clauses 27 to 33 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 5, clauses 34 to 54.
I beg to move that Part 5, clauses 34 through 54 stand part.
The question is that part 5, clauses 34 to 54 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 6, clauses 55 to 94.
I beg to move that Part 6, clauses 55 through 94 stand part.
The question is that part 6, clauses 55 to 94 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 7, clauses 95 to 118.
Move that Part 7, clauses 95 to 110.
And 110.
110 stand part.
The question is that part 7, clauses 95 to 110 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 8, clauses 111 to 114.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Part 8, clauses 111 through 114 stand part.
The question is that part 8, clauses 111 to 114 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 9, sir, clauses 115 to 163.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Part 9, clauses 115 through 163 stand part.
The question is that part 9, clauses 115 to 163 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 10, clauses 164 to 166.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Part 10, clauses 164 to 166 stand part.
The question is that part 10, clauses 164 to 166 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 11, clauses 167 and 168.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Part 11, clauses 167 and 168 stand part.
The question is that part 11, clauses 167 and 168 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Part 12, clauses 169 to 185.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that Part 9, clause 169 to 185 stand part. Part 12. Sorry, beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman. They beg to move that Part 12, clauses 169 to 185 stand part.
The question is that part 12, clauses 169 to 185 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
I beg to move that you now report to His Honor the Speaker the passage of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chairman of committees has reported the passing of one bill in committee. Honourable member for St. James Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the bill be now read a third time.
The question is that the bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Copyright Act 2025.
Beg second that.
The question is that this bill be passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This bill is passed and so cited. Honourable member for
Thank you,
Michael
Mr. Speaker.
Southeast.
I beg to move the suspension of the House until 4 p.m.
The question is that this honourable chairman be suspended until 4 p.m. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This honourable chairman stands suspended until 4 p.m. This sitting is resumed.
Thank
Honourable Leader,
you.
Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, we have come to the end of today's sitting. I therefore beg to move the adjournment of the House until Tuesday, the 28th of October at 10 a.m.
The question is that this Honourable Chamber will be adjourned until Tuesday, the 20th day of October at 10 a.m. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This Honourable Chamber stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 20th day of October 2025 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.